Well, it's great to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today. I'm looking forward to delving into your history, your music, and
Yeah,
and what's going on.
thank you. Yeah, I'm happy you're interested.
Yeah, I totally. Yeah. So before we get into the new album, before we get into your life and music, I want to know first and foremost, 5 years ago this pandemic began.
Right.
We were probably a little bit into it, so much uncertainty. How much as a musician did you have to pivot and maneuver through this that's affected the way that you approach life today?
Well, as a musician, um, oh yeah, right at the beginning of that, I thought to myself, well, this is not going to last forever. So what are you going to have to show for it when it's all done? I mean, you just can't wait for Cuomo at 11:30 every morning to talk about the statistics and
Yeah.
put your life all around that and just totally let this thing overwhelm you. So I knew that I wanted to have time to write music. So it was very valuable for me. I hate that we lost so many people. I mean, friends, if not, my father-in-law passed kind of during that time, not from COVID, but because we couldn't see him. And
Yeah.
he was, all those kinds of stories. It was awful. But I basically wanted to take advantage of the time and the fact that I wasn't so much involved in everybody else's project, and that I wanted to be more involved in creating a way for my own projects, and not even about projects, just to stimulate and grow
Yeah.
as a musician. So I knew I wanted to have more time to play on my instrument and to create music and to learn how to write, compose better music. So once I did that, and along with I had no idea because I never not worked, so I didn't realize that we could get unemployment.
Yeah.
So there's the steady check. They had all these big, on Facebook they had these musician pages so everybody could help navigate their life, and I was like, okay, steady money, not a whole lot of money, but steady, so
Yeah.
I can put some away. Let's let's use that time to shift. And so I reorganized. So by the time we were kind of coming out of it in 2022, I think I had gotten one, maybe two grants, funding to help with this project, the configuration that is on the album right now, move forward. And, everybody was doing these, people had created these ways to do music online, like visuals and programs where there were online concerts. So I was involved in it. So it was good for me because I shifted into focusing on how to develop my skills better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Keepers of the Flame is the new album. Talk to me a little bit about this project. What was the vision and how do you feel now that it's out and the world's, going to get a taste?
Yeah. Um, it was inspired by a book about African mythology because I was originally thinking about Joseph Campbell's hero's journey because I have a lot of yogi friends. A while back got certified as a yoga teacher, so it's a lot of study about self care, history of mythology. And I thought, well, what about the hero's journey of African American people? So it started as a project with my husband, who's a bassist, and two other violinists who are really good friends of ours. And we got it supported through New Music USA, where everybody would read a segment of the book and write an original piece based on what they read. So we started like that, and then we got other opportunities to record even more music. We did a residency, and I kept that interest going. And some of the music on this album that's going to be released on May 10th comes from that, although it's reconfigured for this ensemble because it originally started with three violins and bass, and we added like percussion. And Cora actually is the way we perform some of these things live. So it's partly that, and The musicians that are on the project are, we're all kind of we're traditionally trained musicians, but we've also expanded our curiosity into the world of improvising. And one of the things we all want to elevate ourselves and create a kind of an organic chemistry in is the idea of collective improvising. So I was thinking about the musicians that are in the band, and I'm thinking about how we all think improvising is like one of the highest forms of artistic freedom. So with the combination of being inspired by mythology, by social events, by uh, current events, I should say, social justice, and knowing the people that we are in the ensemble. That's how the recording came together with those, that's how the concept of the recording came together.
I just listened to a bunch of interviews with Joseph Campbell at the Skywalker Ranch with Bill Moyers, and I hadn't really gotten into his world much. Man, you talk about a dude that had a steel trap for a memory, and the amount of places he went to, and just the hopefulness in all of his assessments of where we've evolved and where we can go. And I mean, you just hear so many things that are dour about where humans go and what, especially now in 2025. There's so
Yeah,
many clowny things going on coming out of Washington, but Joseph Campbell just kind of makes you feel like we're doing okay. We there's a chance, you know?
yeah, yeah. I bet. Wow, I got to check out more of his works.
Yeah.
Yeah, and his good ideas about the interviews. Yeah,
Yeah, it's wonderful stuff.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. How did this journey into the violin, how did this journey into music take me back to the beginnings? How did all of this begin and evolve into your career today?
I had progressive music, jazz music, jazz educators growing up in Detroit.
Yeah.
So my middle school teacher was a jazz trumpet player who was his tour had ended, so he got a gig teaching, and he was very clear from the beginning. I've never taught strings, but my school was located in my middle school was across the football field from our high school. And so there was a small orchestra over there, and there was another jazz educator there. So in middle school, I learned how to start playing piano by ear. My friends would just teach me how to play. And we would do also, we would also work on music. I'd be playing violin, but I also got a taste of the orchestra world from my high school a little earlier on. But by the time I got to high school, my the first year I got there, my school was a magnet fine arts school. So it was a totally new building just for music, practice rooms, and it was amazing. And my teacher, soon after, maybe a couple of years, maybe I was around 11th grade, I guess he got some funding. And one day became an orchestra, and there were electric violins, all different colors, amplifiers. And we were playing jazz orchestra arrangements in addition to just doing our traditional orchestra stuff, but he would make particularly all the people in the string section stand up and take a solo. So from there, as we became better players, because of his community in the musicians world of Detroit, and my high school was a few blocks. So this is like the center of Detroit. And he knew these guys that were playing in the Funk Brothers. And so he would get us sometimes on recording sessions where maybe they weren't going to hire the guys from the Detroit Symphony, and they want to give some young kids a chance to get this recording experience. And I also got a chance to record with this duo these duo producers way back, Holland, Doja Holland, recorded at their studio in Detroit, and different recording studios everywhere. And then my teacher would took us out of town, so we would play jazz pieces on electric violin, but we would also play like things like the Bach double on electric violin, and it was kind of like it was just music without boundaries when I grew up. So I kind of always thought violin players did this, and this is what all of them did, was just to play all kinds of music.
Yeah.
And very talented. All my classmates very talented. So I was playing in bands, gigging in like 11th, 12th grade, and playing Frank Zappa and Edgar Winter. And then we just turned right around and played Larry Graham, Sly Stone, and singing, and so uh, it was a big transition. It was a little bit of a turn. It was a kind of a turnaround when I went to college at University of Michigan School of Music. And I knew I wanted to do that because I wanted to get my skill set. Really, I wanted to elevate that because I realized that if you don't have technique and you don't have foundation, you're not going to be able to play any style of music. So I knew that early on I wanted to do this. Plus, my mother, she wasn't a musician, but she loved music. So, and she loved to host a lot of parties. So people were at my house very frequently on weekends, partying, playing music all night long. I'm talking about Dinah Washington and Miles Davis and Super Sax and Nancy Wilson. And so all that stuff had all those great string arrangements. So I just heard a lot of that. And when I was playing it in school, it like connected the dots, like, oh, this is what I can do with my instrument. So, yeah.
So another wonderfully prominent musician on the violin from Detroit is Regina Carter. I caught her before the pandemic in Kansas City, and I'd never really heard live how much the dynamics of the violin works with the rest of the jazz set. It was just wonderful. It was so refreshing
Yeah.
to hear. How much of an influence has Regina been? I mean, between both of you, has there been an influence of?
You know, I heard about, first of all, see, what's the word? She grew up in a different neighborhood. It's, you know, Detroit, it's kind of polarized. So I was kind of like in the center of the city, and she was on another part of the city and went to a specialized high school for not music, but for people who were, I think they had great math, science. They had a great music department too. Jerry Allen graduated from that school. Maybe I think Ron Carter graduated from that school. So she's younger than me, so I heard about her. And by the time I graduated and was in college, I think she was already doing international uh, gigs, and or at least she had left Detroit and was living in Europe, and or either East Coast or something like that. And so I watched her recording career really blossom. Yeah. So it was a real inspiration for me.
So, what was the first live jazz show you saw, or first live concert that made you think, I want to do that one day? I want to be up there and do that.
I think it was John Lupani,
Okay.
and then Noel Pointer and John Blake.
Okay.
But John Lupani with those different color instruments, I was like, he has a blue instrument, and we have a blue instrument at our high school. We got blue and red, and we got green and black, and he's playing this electric violin, and electric bass player, drummer, which is those bands that I gigged in. And so I just got his music and just to learn solos, note for note. And every time he would come to town, I would go see him. And in fact, there's a bass player in Detroit, Ralph Armstrong, that played with him forever and ever. So I knew Ralph. So I think sometimes I'm not sure if I don't know how I got backstage to meet John Lupani, but every time I would just go see him and learn his music. And then the same thing happened. You see, with Noah Pointer, I saw him at a jazz club and introduced myself, and I had my violin, and I asked him, could I sit in? Or either he invited me to sit in. So actually like I mean, he was just generous like that. It was a smaller jazz club. So, you can sit in, and I played on something that I that I knew already because I'd been listening to him. And then I saw John Blake play with McCoy Tyner.
Okay.
By then I was living in Ann Arbor, and I was like, gotta follow him. So I used to go see him everywhere and every time I could. And then I ended up applying for a jazz fellowship with him uh, through the National Endowment of the Arts. And so that was partly how I got to New York, actually, because I got that fellowship. And so I studied with John Blake. And then from there, actually before there in college, during college years, I would just go to record stores, and anything that had any violinist on it, I would buy. Yeah, I didn't matter. If it had a violin player on it, then I would buy it. And that's how I found out about Zbigniew Seifert, who
Okay.
played with Oregon.
Yeah.
And then from there, Stuff Smith, Stefan Grappelli, Michael White, Ginger Smock, Leroy Jenkins. Uh, I saw Ornette Coleman in person when I was a student playing violin, and I thought to myself, what is all the big deal about intonation? Because he sounded great,
Yeah.
and he just had this totally different approach to playing. And so I just saw all these people doing all these interesting things, and outside the box of being kind of, for me, it was beginning to feel like a confining situation in the for orchestra playing, or for that kind of orchestra playing.
Yeah. So, what do you like the best about being a professional musician? What has motivated you all these years to evolve and become who you are, to find your voice on the instrument?
What I realized in hindsight is all of those years of sitting in the back of the second violin section in orchestras allow me to just hear uh, the way the orchestra is put together, the way the sounds and the colors and the textures are in traditional orchestral music, bassoons and violas, flutes, oboes, the whole wind, strings, uh, combination and relationship, and what it all, um, what kind of conversation it makes. And it's something about the second violin music, which develops you into this really good rhythmic player, because a lot of times those composers are writing. Well, first of all, I had to um, reorganize my thinking about myself, because there's that second fiddle metaphor, which means you're not as good as the first fiddle or the first violin section. So I had to, after time, just realize that when the composers write music, they want all the parts played well. So being in the second violin section, I think, gave me this study of rhythmic concept that was really, really an important part of, for me, improvising.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that um, was motivation. The other motivation is just playing music with people that you really like, and people that are good players, and people that you really like. For me, people that I connect with, and that we have the same artistic um, vision is most important. And then from there, people that are really skilled, that are generous players, that know how to listen, um, that are easy to be around, easy to travel with, um, you know, interested in other things outside of music, that have a broad lens of interest, and are aware of social events, social justice, current events, and because all of that is going to filter into how they play.
Yeah.
So that, I think, is what became really interesting to me. and kept me motivated over the years is that I realized how important it is to keep my artistic community honest and keep it something that feeds me, something that can inspire me and make me kind of feel very safe and very adventurous and uh, not make me feel uncomfortable when I come with, when we all are together with music and playing different music or trying out different things, experimenting. So yeah, that's what I
Okay.
think really inspired me. Yeah.
So at the end of the day, Gwen, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, fans, everyone that you play on the bandstand with, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Uh, a leader, um, an organizer, uh, hopefully like a transparent and authentic creative voice, um, a good musician, somebody striving to elevate, somebody curious in different in all in different uh, interests, somebody that has different interests, curious, and allows that to seep into musical ideas that are common interests amongst the ensemble players, and somebody that allows freedom.
Yeah. So if anyone wants to pick up a copy of the album, they want to see you live, any of the good business, previous works, anything in your world, where's the best place for people to go?
Pre-sales will be available very soon within the next days on Bandcamp for Keepers of the Flame, which is going to be released on May 10th.
Okay.
The album release is happening in Beacon, New York on May 10th, and that's the start of the album release. And then we will be then securing, we have other venues that are in progress happening that we'll continue to promote.
Okay.
And be available for live concerts. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I will get all these links in the show notes. This has been wonderful, Gwen. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your story. Best of luck on the release. Enjoy it. I appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Jazz fans, Joe Domino here, the host of the weekly Neon Jazz radio show and regular interview series being produced and distributed from Lee Summit, Missouri. We are very excited to let you know about the second annual Lee Summit Jazz Festival taking place again this summer on June 28th at the Bridge Space, located at 210 Southwest Market Street in downtown Lee Summit. Following the success of the 2024 festival, the lineup will include Lee Summit students, KC Area Youth Jazz, Paganova with Michael Pagan, Horoscope with Stan Kessler, Brad Gregory, Adam Larson, and the Lee Summit Jazz Orchestra. There will also be food trucks and vendors to round out a day of celebration. Early bird tickets are 2 for $30, and all details can be found at lsjazzfest.com. We can't wait to see you there.